Turned by McKenna! Lovely cushion header. And Gerrard! What a head, son! What a head!
Hello and welcome back to Premier League Trio podcast. My name is Haider Rabbani and I'm your host as usual today. I'm delighted to be joined by Henry. Everyone knows who Henry is from the United District podcast. Henry, I wish we were talking on more positive circumstances, but obviously after what happened yesterday, we are where we are and we've got to dissect what we saw.
Yeah. Unfortunately, thank you for having me on as well. By the way, it's always good to come on here. And yeah, there's a lot to talk about. I think it was another disappointing night for us, unfortunately.
Absolutely, it's always a pleasure. You know, you're always welcome on the pod, and you're a great friend of the podcast. But I mean, let's just jump straight into it. And yesterday was so disappointing. And you know, we were talking off air. I always like to give myself, a day to just relax maybe or a night to sleep on it just to digest what I saw, because I don't like to tweet in vain. There's a lot of times we're all guilty of it, of tweeting when things are tough and we're obviously very upset and very emotional. But yesterday I'm still annoyed because this is the third semi-final now that we've ballsed it up. Let's be honest. We played well enough to win. I do want to say that, but the familiar problems as usual, the same old story of the lack of killer instinct in front of goal. Couple that with the shocking defensive mistakes at the back we're seeing on a weekly basis. And they're not just... there's more of an individual problem, but there's also a collective problem that it's quite clear that, I don't know if it's the coaching or if it's communication, but there's a problem there. And when you look at it, we had 46 shots on target in the last... on goal. 46 shots, 21 on goal in the last two games. But we scored from two penalties. We couldn't score from open play. And I agree with Paul Scholes that if United had Sancho, I think he would have scored at least one of those chances. And looking at it, Sevilla, two goals from three shots on target. And it's just a real concern because I don't think we played badly, but there's a lack of killer instinct. And we were all saying we don't need a forward. Our attack's fine. It's our defense. We've got concerns at the top and the bottom of the pitch. What do you think?
No, I agree. There's definitely problems at both ends, as you say. There's been a lot of, as you said, the blame game of things going back and forward. Who's to blame for goals and things like that. But no, I think you're right. The lack of that lack of clinicality. I don't know if that's a word, but the lack of clinical finishing in the past two games has definitely cost us. There's a couple of chances. Last night, obviously, that I think Martial usually would score. There's that one where his first touch took it away from him a little bit, and he sort of was too close to the goalkeeper. The keeper made a good save, and the keeper was very good, like the Copenhagen keeper was as well. Both had excellent performances. It always seems as if goalkeepers, pull out all the stops against us. I remember all those years ago under Jose, Tom Heaton as well having some ridiculous performances, and Lee Grant, wasn't it, at Stoke as well, all those years ago. So we're used to that, but yeah, no, as you said, there's definitely problems at both ends. I thought for the second goal, I've seen blame on Wan-Bissaka. I'm quite surprised by that, if I'm honest. I think Lindelof's got to do better. He was goal side of Luke de Jong. I think that's his man to pick up as the centre-half. He's caught in no man's land. And he loses his man, and de Jong has a tap-in the end. I've seen people blaming De Gea for the goals. I don't know where that's come from, whether that's gender-driven or whatever. I don't see what more he can do, really. I saw, John Harrison, who we've had on the United District podcast before. I'm not sure if you're aware of him. He's an expert on goalkeeping, and he just said, he should never be saving them. He could have done a bit more, perhaps. Could have rushed out, maybe made himself a bit bigger, put the pressure on for the De Jong one at least. But no, De Gea is not to blame for me. I thought Harry Maguire actually had a good game last night. A lot of people were quite angry at me because I said I put the clip of everyone's seen Bruno and Lindelof going sort of head to head and having that little spat. And I said that my captain, I think Bruno Fernandes's leadership and his standards were clear with that argument. It wasn't as much a shot at Harry Maguire. It was more a praising of sort of Bruno and his standards. But I thought Maguire, where's Maguire's leadership? I think that's one big thing. I thought he actually played well, as a defender, technically. I thought he did well last night, but as a captain, where's his leadership? I want to see more of that from him. You know, Bruno Fernandes is really our main leader at the club right now. So that was my only criticism of Maguire last night. I thought, yeah, Lindelof was the man at fault for the second goal.
I completely agree on the Maguire point, because I tweeted the same thing last night. I said, if Ollie has any sort of sense, I'm not blaming Ollie for this, because I actually don't think the manager is as much to blame, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But for me, we did enough to win. That's why I think it hurts so much, is that we did enough, but it's those lapses in communication and concentration. But for me, yeah, Maguire is too timid. He does bring an element of leadership at the back, but you saw the way that Bruno went in on Lindelof. We need that. That's, you know what that reminded me of? It reminded me sort of Roy Keane, when it's just the standards have to be up here. And at the moment, players are making mistakes and just getting away with it. It's too many players who put their heads down and that aren't. Look, this is the way I see it. Okay, United lack characters in the squad. You look at the fact we've lost 3 semi-finals. That's a concern for me. Whatever anyone says, that's a concern. That we're the nearly team, that we don't have enough bottle. We've seen in every single semi-final. Okay, the Man City one, we were in a bad phase, I think, and our form was patchy. And to be honest with you, no one really expected us to beat them. The Chelsea one is inexcusable, because at the end of the day, when you look at the team that Ollie put out, and I understand the reasoning, but we were on a good run. Chelsea's form was patchy. And when you look at the team he pulled out, it was a halfway house. He didn't rest everyone. He was a few players here, a few players there. At least if you're going to rest everyone, just change the whole team. Like, you know, you just gave up a chance of a trophy. And then Arsenal got to the final as well. So he knew that the day before. So for me, that was an issue. And yesterday, where's the characters in the squad? And I think the one player that epitomized the know-how for me, or let's say the streetwise streak in him, was Ava Banega. Wonderful player. He's been there, he's done it, and he just showed he had that streetwise edge to him that we don't have. And this is a kind of game management that's missing from Solskjaer's United for me. It's obvious that we have to defend better because we're a shambles at the back. But when you look at that team from 1 to 11, how many leaders are there? I mean, you mentioned Bruno, agreed completely. I don't think Pogba's a leader, too timid for me. Matic, he's an older player. People are saying give him the captaincy. He's not really a leader. Rashford, we'll talk about him later, not a leader. Greenwood's young. He can emerge as a leader, I think. He's got a great mentality on him. Martial has emerged again as a leader, but he's not someone who's vocal. Look at that defense. Not one of that back four is vocal. And De Gea's timid. We know De Gea's timid. So United need to find... And people are complaining. Look, I'm not saying we should sign Williams. Just put it out there. But Williams a winner. That sort of caliber. You know, a bit of an older player that comes into the squad. Okay, let's say a Perisic, for example, because I think he could be a good squad player. Someone like that who's been there, won a lot of trophies, who'll come in, and when in those key moments, they're going to be the ones that stand up and pull the team up. And when I look at, because I agree with you, with Wan-Bissaka, what I will say about Wan-Bissaka is that he's been phenomenal. But of late, I think he's been uncharacteristically poor. And I would put that down perhaps to fatigue playing a part, because he's played so many games this year. But all 4 defenders were culpable in some way for the two goals. If you look at Wan-Bissaka, I think the first mistake was allowing Reguilon, by the way, who's a very, very interesting player, run past him and for the first goal. And then he allowed, I think it was more Lindelof's fault, but I would like him to have been a bit more aware. He allowed De Jong to make an unchallenged run, to finish Navas's cross. And then Williams, for me, he's not good enough at the moment. You gave him a contract. I think he's better on the right, but the lad's he's so young, he's inconsistent. He's got so much to work on in terms of his defensive play. His attacking play is just non-existent at the moment. He made some good tackles, but he's just not there for me at the moment. He got it wrong for the first goal. It's quite obvious.
Yeah, 100%.
Maguire's getting a lot of stick, and I agree with you. Maguire had a good game yesterday, actually. I thought he played well. I couldn't say he made any mistakes. My issue is the same as you. It's that, that leadership. I want to see him going on Lindelof. Why is Bruno doing it? He just stands there, adjusting his captain's armband. It's just frustrating. But looking at Maguire, the only thing I'd say is, he fell for El Nassiri's dummy, although I wouldn't place too much blame on him. And then you look at Lindelof, completely failed to sense any danger with De Jong. That's inexcusable. End of. And how do United expect to challenge for top honours with mistakes like that? It's indefensible. And those on Twitter making excuses for this loss, and there are a few, and I'm not going to call anyone out, but those who are, making excuses saying it's a blessing in disguise we lost, it's masking over our deficiencies, they're a massive part of the problem at Man United. When did the fans lower their expectations that low that they're making excuses for failure? yesterday was not okay. I don't want to bring up Mourinho, but I want to ask you this question. Would he have been afforded the same excuses as Ollie has been because of who Ollie is? And I know you're a big Mourinho fan. I was, but I think Ollie deserves another season. But do you think he would have been afforded the same excuses of losing 3 semi-finals as Mourinho would have?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really tough question. I think you can just do a direct comparison, really. I mean, this is Solskjaer's first full season as manager. It's been a very long one. It's been a very strange one with everything that's gone on. But that's a fact. This is Solskjaer's first full season, I should say, as permanent manager. In Mourinho's first full season permanent manager, we finished 6th. It was a poor league campaign. A lot of people, straight away there were complaints about, the style of football and everything else. Those complaints haven't been present with Ollie. We finished 3rd. Obviously, people can say, about the points tally, etc. I mean, the points you get are only relative to the season you're playing in. So I think that 3rd finish is that's a great finish for United, despite the lack of quality elsewhere, which, you can argue about all day long. We finished 3rd this season. Jose finished 6th in 2017. We won the Europa League. That got us the Champions League qualification and a bit of silverware. And we got the League Cup and Community Shield. You can forget the Community Shield, really, because it's not as relevant. Ollie didn't have the chance to win that. We weren't in it. But, the League Cup and the Europa League were good. And 6th, I don't know, it's tough. I think they're quite similar transitional seasons. And, you've got those people that will... I'm a massive fan of silverware. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's the pinnacle of football, isn't it? You don't play... You play football to win trophies. That's the fact of it. And that's why I think so many of us are so disappointed at getting knocked out in the semi-finals on 3 different occasions. You asked whether Jose had been allowed the same. I think in his first season, they would have allowed that. I think, they're going to give Ollie the time, which he's earned from finishing 3rd. And I think they would have given Jose the time if he got knocked out in all 3. It's strange with that season because, we wouldn't have qualified for the Champions League, which is massive, isn't it? We know under the Glazers this season we have done that through the league, so I think that sort of makes the cup competitions a little bit less relevant, at least in their eyes. I mean, to us, the fans, we all want to win things, but the Glazers are always worried about the financial side of things. As we know, top 4 is the peak of that, isn't it? That's all they really care about, to be honest. So you asked whether Jose would have been given the time. I'm not sure. It's hard to say, but I just want to get it out there that, I've been so critical of Solskjaer. I think, you've got your criticisms of him. We've all, most of us anyway, have got criticisms of him. But, finishing 3rd this season, it's a good finish. Semi-final, all 3 cup competitions. On the face of it, it looks bad, doesn't it? Because there's definitely a mentality problem, as you say. But, to be able to reach the semi-finals at least, that's a decent feat. At least it's a decent thing to achieve. And I think he's definitely earned himself another season no matter what. And I would, people are calling for his head now, I think are wrong. I don't think you can call for his head now. I think he's earned that extra season.
Completely agree on the calling of his head. That's like you said, we've both had gripes. My gripe, look, what I said on Twitter yesterday was that so All For United, the page that I've been contributing on, Ben from All For United put a tweet out and said that this is not by any means saying Ollie out. So this is what I just want to say. Because I'm not. This is my opinion. He needs to be back this summer. It's so important. You're looking at a squad. Why is he making a substitution at 86th minute? Because he knows there's no quality in the squad. I don't agree with that because I think there was... we'll talk about Rashford in a minute, but there was opportunities to bring players on who would have made more of an impact. I don't think he's really managed the sub players that well, actually, over the restart period because it's quite... It's that man management piece. I think with the first 11, he's brilliant. But when I look at the substitutes, none of them have played many games. So they're just like, well, you know what? We know we're not good enough. So that confidence has just gone down. But for me, so Ben said yesterday from All For United, he said that, I'm not saying I'm Ollie out, but if, for example, United decided tomorrow that they thought Ollie wasn't good enough and they brought in a Pochettino and Allegri, I wouldn't complain about that. And I agree with that. That's not to say I want Ollie out. He deserves to be backed. But at the end of the day, I think what we're seeing with Ollie is that what he's done phenomenally is he's gutted out a lot of the dead wood. I hate that term. It's so disrespectful. But the dead wood, or the ones that aren't perhaps invested in the project, who aren't right for the club. Okay? So he's done that.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing because we had Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, 3 managers with 3 different styles of play, 3 different sets of players. It just was a mess. If you think about it now, if Solskjaer left tomorrow, would the squad be left in a better place? 100% yes. The next manager would reap the rewards. So in that respect, Ollie's done a phenomenal job. It's clear that the I guess the culture and the attitude at the club is much better than when Jose was there. You can't deny that. Whether you're the most biggest Jose apologist or not, it's just clear as day. The players look happy. What I have an issue is that in-game management. And when I look at people who are complaining, oh, Allegri plays bad football or pragmatic football, Allegri is probably one of the best in-game managers there is when it comes to tactical changes, when it comes to changing things when they aren't working. Yesterday was quite clear that when you saw the way that the fullbacks were causing havoc to our fullbacks, Reguilon and Navas were so far wide, we just did nothing about it. And then this is a problem for me, is that, look, Solskjaer, he needs better players for sure. And United had enough to win yesterday. But when you're looking at the caliber of manager that is out there, there's nothing wrong with thinking that, right? There's nothing wrong with thinking maybe United need better. We've done well to get to this point, but can Solskjaer take... So we got from A to B, but can Solskjaer take us from B to C?
Well, I that's a really tough question, and none of us know the answer, whether he'll be able to deliver that yet. But, we need to give him the chance. It's a fair argument. This is the thing with Solskjaer. This was always my problem with him. People say, why did you say that Jose deserved time, yet you're now calling for Solskjaer's head, which I was at one point. I think a lot of us were.
I was as well.
Yeah, and I said, well, Mourinho's earned it with past success. He's won so many different trophies. He's won the league in this country, I think, 3 times, isn't it? He's won 2 Champions Leagues, etc. He's bought himself that time with his pedigree. And there was no proof with Solskjaer that, just because he was a former player, where's the proof that he deserves any time? He hasn't given us that. And that's why I wanted him gone and wanted to replace him with someone like, as you say, Allegri or a Poch or a Conte or whoever else. These were all the names that I was sort of bringing up. But I think now this third place has shown, he has got, a very decent hold on managerial ability. There were times when we were saying, if he goes now, he's not going to get a job in the Premier League ever again. That's not true now. He'd certainly get jobs now if he was to leave United, and he deserves them. He's done things at United. I think that's my main point I've got to get across, that this season he's shown in big games that he's very very, very well versed in tactically in those big games. Yeah. We've done excellently on the counter multiple times. Chelsea, City, the draw against Liverpool, which was unlucky at Old Trafford. So many different examples. PSG last year as well, another great gritty performance tactically from him as well. So I think he's definitely proven that, as you say, he's got us from that A to B. Can he take us to C? I'm not sure, but he definitely deserves that time to get that.
Completely agree, and that's what I want to say. Look, Henry, that's big for you to say, because a lot of people seem to have this view of you on Twitter that you're one of those. You get those accounts that are just up Jose's ass completely. Yeah. And you're not like that. You're giving a balanced argument. I would agree. Anyone that says he's tactically inept is just an agenda, because he's not, clearly not. If he was tactically inept, he wouldn't have come into third. You can't fluke that. Bruno's a massive part of it. But he's got Bruno. Look, Bruno came into a side which was, quite frankly, struggling. They were as low as they could get. He's done incredibly to turn it around, to come in and settle. But also, got to give the manager credit for bringing him in, for allowing him to provide an environment for him to hit the ground running, for making Martial an absolute demon right now. A player that looks so hungry, a player the way he carries the ball is phenomenal. His work rate has just gone through the roof. He looks happy. That's massive. We've not seen an Anthony Martial like this before. Mason Greenwood, the way he's managed Mason Greenwood is phenomenal. He eased him in slowly, and now Greenwood is 18 goals this season, and he's not even 20 years old yet. And then you look at Nemanja Matic again, come into the side and change the team. I would even argue that he's developed Wan-Bissaka as well, because Wan-Bissaka's game going forward has improved. So all these things, of course, you're allowed to turn around and say, you know what, I think he should have made a substitute earlier. And that's what I'm going to come on to now, Henry. I'm going to ask you. Actually, no, let's talk about Rashford first. So I think there were a lot of strong performances from Pogba, Bruno, and Fred. I thought they played well yesterday, especially Fred. I understood why, and that again, that's another tactical thing. Matic is our best defensive midfielder by a mile, but when you look at the reasoning for bringing Fred in, if you're tactically inept, you wouldn't have done that. Fred has worked well against the press. We saw against City. He has the ability, he's got the energy. I thought Fred had a really good game, especially early on. But there's something very worrying about a few players there. Obviously, we've mentioned Lindelof, and we'll talk about transfers later. I don't want to talk about Lindelof because I think it's universally known that the Lindelof-Maguire partnership's not working. But for me, I think Brandon Williams is a concern. I'm not sure that he's ready. Perhaps if we get a left back, which I think we need, he might move to right back. But I don't think he's ready. In the games that we played, I feel like that Williams Rashford partnership's not working. Where Rashford was excelling was when Luke Shaw, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but Luke Shaw is integral to the way Man United played. But the way he was overlapping, we saw several times that what Rashford would do is he'd actually come a bit deeper, and he has really great ball playing ability. He's a good passer of the ball. So I think against Bournemouth, where he played that through ball through to Bruno and he miscontrolled it, or was it Southampton, one or two? But we've seen from Rashford that he's looked much better when Shaw's been playing. Do you think that it's worrying, the fact that Rashford's come back from injury and looked terrible? Yesterday, he looked awful. I mean, you saw on Twitter, I'm not going to be one of those to say Rashford out, but say Sancho comes in, the one that drops out for me is Rashford.
Yeah. No, I know. And this is another, I've said about Ollie, I've been critical of him, equally Marcus Rashford. A lot of people, I upset a lot of people, I think, with my attitude towards Rashford. Some of the things I look back on that I said and I think went a little bit too far and perhaps a little bit stupid, a little bit naive. I think we all do that sometimes in the heat of the moment. We look back and think we've done things a little bit wrong. So I'll say that first of all. But I've had this conversation before. I put a tweet out about, I think it was early last year, early in 2019, when I said, I was talking to my brother about it. Is Rashford a poor player with purple patches, or is he a good player with long, poor runs of form? Because he never seems to be able to hit the ground for an entire season. We're yet to see Rashford have a full good season, really, at Manchester United. And I thought this season would have been the season before the lockdown. Even then, though, back in August and September, I mean, he started the season poorly. Straight away, Anthony Martial looks like the better player, and then sort of in the middle of the season, Rashford did start to score a lot of goals. People can argue penalties and whatever. He won a lot of those penalties himself. So there's a good argument, not much of an argument to be had there, really, when you say about him scoring penalties. He's earned them himself. And let me just get that clear as well. The penalty thing, by the way, the amount of penalties we've had this season, so deserved, by the way. Like, so many of them are penalties. I don't see what the debate is there about them. Penalties are penalties, and if they're given, you're not going to miss them on purpose, are you? So I don't understand that argument, first of all. But yeah, back onto Rashford. Since the restart, it has been worrying. That back injury, wasn't it? Ollie, perhaps he brought him on. I can't remember who did we play. It was Rochdale, I think, wasn't it, or something like that? And he got brought on.
Yeah, where he got in. Yeah, I think so. Was it Rochdale? Yeah, it was. Him and Pogba both got injured in the same game, didn't they? Yeah,
so that didn't help at all. Brought him on when he was in a bit of a tough patch, and aggravated that injury a bit more. But yeah, since the restart, he has been worrying. I mean, last night that chance right on half time could have completely changed the complexion of the game. We had a break on down the left. I said it at the time, it reminded me of Gareth Bale's goal all those years ago against Barcelona in the Copa del Rey when he was sort of running down the touchline. He had so much room, Rashford, managed to botch it, and I'm not sure really what the problem is. His decision making just hasn't been great in all aspects of his game. Just haven't looked as good. Apart from, as you say, his playmaking seems to have improved. Playing nice through balls and linking up play well, but yeah, apart from that, I mean, especially since Shaw has been injured, we've definitely seen a lack of quality, I think, from Rashford. But yeah, no, Shaw has been massive since the restart for us. Another player who I've changed my opinion on. I think Shaw's been very, very good since the restart. Brandon Williams, a player that I've called average for a very, very long time. A right-footed player playing at left-back isn't something I like in any context. It's not something...
I'm the same.
But yeah, it's not something I'd opt for. I don't think, because you can't sort of smash it. You don't have that option to smash it down the line. You have to come inside to dribble and stuff like that. I just don't think it works well. And yeah, Williams at fault, as you say, for the first goal as well last night. So we've definitely missed Luke Shaw. But at the same time, you can't just put it all down to Brandon Williams. Rashford's poor performances as of recent. There's definitely something personal there. I hope he recoups himself ready for the beginning of the next season, and hopefully we can see the Rashford that we saw in the middle of this season. Because we need that goal output from him again next season to help us.
Yeah, I can't argue with any of that. I think the worrying thing is that when you're looking at the abilities of that front three, give it 18 months, I think Greenwood's going to surpass Rashford. That's how highly rated I view Greenwood. There's nothing wrong with having options. I mean, someone said to me yesterday, we don't need Jack Grealish. And I was just like, it's so obvious we need a Jack Grealish sort of player or someone in midfield. Yeah, because at the moment, the way Rashford is playing, let's say we don't sign Sancho and Grealish is there. Grealish should be playing on that left right now. That's how versatile he is, and that's how poor Rashford's been. My worry for Rashford is that how much of an impact is this having on his confidence, and whether he's still carrying an injury, because he's just playing within himself a little bit. Like you said, there was that stage at the end of the second half where Rashford of all would have gone for goal. He would have just been direct and just would have put into the far right hand corner. But what I'm worried about is that can you rely on players that are that inconsistent? That's what I'm worried about. Can you rely? Because so people are saying we need a striker. Now I'm starting to think we might need someone that can come on. There's Cavani available, someone of that ilk. I know the wages will be extreme, but world-class goal scorer. United need to be more clever in the market and looking at it. I mean, let's move on, I suppose, to that need for quality signings. And Oli didn't make a substitution until the 86th minute, and a lot of people going crazy on Twitter about it, rightly so. And when it was clear he needed to make a change, he just didn't make it. Is that simply just a case of, to the board, we need quality signings? Or is it honestly a case of Oli just, I don't know, just not thinking that we have anything on the bench? Is it a sign that he's saying that? Or is it just simply like, it's just we shouldn't think too much into it? Because a lot of people are saying, oh, Oli's going to turn around and say, oh, we don't need signings. But actually, yesterday, he turned around and said, we know what we want, we need to go and buy it. So this idea that he's a nice guy is a little bit unfair, I think.
Yeah, I think it's something that Jose Mourinho did a few times when he was at United, that lack of substitutions and, perhaps making a bit of a statement. I think Solskjaer has been leaving them late quite a lot. It's something he's done quite a lot in his time at the club. Whether that's a statement in itself or that's just his sort of managerial style, I'm not sure. But Jose definitely did it as a statement. I remember a game at home against Juventus I was at Old Trafford for. Actually, we ended up, I think we lost 1-0, didn't we? It was Paulo Dybala who scored in that game. And I think, did he make his change? He either didn't make a substitution or he brought on Chong. That was it. He brought on one sub or zero, and it was just a clear statement of the lack of depth. And I hope that is what Solskjaer's doing. I think it is what he's doing, because there's not many players who I look at on that bench and think they could make a difference. I like Ighalo on the bench. I think he's a different profile to Martial, so he's a decent option, although I'd like him to be scoring more goals now, Ighalo, to be honest. We can love him all we like as a man who loved United and loved the club. I think he's got to be doing a bit more for me as that prime backup. As you say, there's got to be comparisons drawn between Ighalo and whether or not we'd be better off going and getting someone like Edinson Cavani, a man who would guarantee goals whenever he comes on. And I think Ighalo just needs to do that bit more as the sort of backup striker, as that sort of, target man, backup, a bit like Fellaini used to do for us as well. I've seen mentions of him in the past couple of days of how well he did at United. A player I love, Marouane Fellaini, a player that I miss, offered us something completely different that we don't really have anymore, that Ighalo isn't quite offering for me. So I don't mind Ighalo off the bench. He's a decent substitution. Matic and Fred, their rotation of depth is fine. And Dan James I like off the bench. I think people can hate him all you like. He definitely offers something different to Mason Greenwood. Greenwood's more of that technical sort of, clinical in front of goal. That Greenwood's just phenomenal. But James does offer something different. He's quicker. He goes down the byline rather than comes inside. And that pace is always useful. So I like James. I like Ighalo. And I don't think in the midfield we got too bad of a rotation. But apart from that, I don't see many players that Solskjaer wants or needs to bring on. Fosu Mensah coming on last night. I mean, what's the point of that? Need some more impact players off that bench to make a difference, because players like Timothy Fosu Mensah, Andres Pereira, Lingard. I can see. I'm not a big fan of Lingard. Don't get me wrong, but I can see that he offers something that little bit different, a bit more intelligence and a bit more.
He does.
Pace. But Pereira's a nothing player for me. I'm no worries about Andres Pereira leaving this football club. And there's so many players like that you just see on the bench and you go, what are they going to do if they come off the bench? So yeah, for me, I hope this is a statement from Solskjaer. I think it's a statement from Solskjaer, and yeah, we've definitely got to improve depth. Whoever says otherwise, I think you're naive, to be honest. Jack Grealish is a player we need to go out and get for me.
Absolutely. You can make a good point about Lingard. I'm not the biggest Lingard fan. I'll be completely honest with you. I think a lot of United fans are. I was never one that said I never want to see him in the United shirt again, because it's a typical hyperbole of our fan base. We were both on the Cobham's Finest podcast.
Yeah.
There is a perception that United fans are deluded. Like there's a big perception. And I'm telling you, unless you go and sit down with an opposition fan, look, there's delusion in every fan base. And you brought a great point up that the United fan base is so big that you're just going to have all sorts in there. But there are sections of our fan base who just go over the top. To turn around and say Lingard should never play for United again, it's just like, relax. I love football. It's a game. The guy's a human being. And I have never thought that. But what I will say about Lingard is that when Rashford wasn't doing much yesterday, that should have been probably the first change for me. Because we've seen in the last couple of weeks, although I think Lingard should be one of the first names out, just because he can actually fetch a fairly decent fee. He could come on, he could have stretched the defence, he's got good work rate. Rashford just wasn't offering anything. His end product is not, Lingard's isn't great, but he still has the opportunity. He's got an eye for a goal. He's scored twice now in the last few weeks. it was just a logical step to make. Look, Sevilla looked knackered. We should have wrapped it up in the first 10 minutes of the first half, but they looked knackered. And you know what they did? They brought on a striker to change it. Igalo, for whatever anyone says about him, has that ability to hold the ball up, bring people into play. So for me, although the options aren't great, there are options there. Juan Mata's another one who I thought, you know what? When he came on against Copenhagen, he changed the game. He's not a winger, clearly. His legs are gone, but he's got that brain. There's not many better in the squad with that. That's an option still there. There's fair enough saying, look, I agree. Solskjaer's saying we need quality signings. It's a statement to the board. But that doesn't mean that you sacrifice a game. Not sacrifice, but not make changes that are detrimental to you because you're trying to make a point. And I think for me, that was what was just puzzling, because it was quite clear there were several players that just weren't at it. But when I look at this United squad, there's glaring deficiencies. And I want to move on to the business. And this is the last topic that we'll talk about. But this summer's massive for our progress. I think when you look at the project, Solskjaer's done incredibly to get us to third. I mean, who thought we'd be third in January when we were so far behind? He deserves so much credit. He's done what he's had to do, right? His job was to get top four in Champions League football back. Yeah. Because we were under the impression that if United get Champions League football, that's a criteria for Sancho to join. That was common knowledge, right? We have, first, second, third choice options. We needed to get Champions League so that we can attack our first choice options, so we can offer Champions League football. So important for our progression that Ed Woodward and Matt Judge pull the finger out and get who we need to get. Yeah. And all the signs are pointing towards the fact that we're going to have a struggle in the market again. You're seeing the conflicting reports. I mean, I was on a podcast the other day with Manuel Vett, and he's a German journalist who works for the transfer market. And he categorically said, and this is interesting to United fans, he categorically said that United, there's no bid. We know there's been no bid. The reason why we know there's no bid is because Dortmund are on the stock exchange. So if a big bid comes in, the shareholders have to get notified. So there's no bid. He also said that United cannot afford Jadon Sancho. And he also said that Jadon Sancho doesn't want to leave. Now, read of it what you will. He also did say that Fabrizio Romano needs to check his sources. Okay, listen. Because he said that he's got so big now. I don't necessarily agree with this, because I think Fabrizio is pretty reliable. He hasn't made many mistakes, if any. Maybe one last year with Dybala, but Dybala's a funny one with the image rights. But he did say that perhaps he's becoming so much of a celebrity journalist that he's, feeding what people want to hear. Now, from reading my opinion is Jadon Sancho wants to join Man United. I think that Man United want Jadon Sancho, clear. I think Dortmund are willing to sell him for the right price. So we've got Champions League. This deal should have been wrapped up today. We got knocked out of the Europa League today. United should put that bid in and secured him. And the reason why I'm so frustrated, and we all listen to Phil Brown, he's amazing, and he's been on your podcast before. He's excellent, and he'll say how the reason why he gets so annoyed and why United fans just aren't picking up is that, the Glazers are a massive problem. People don't understand that, although coronavirus has obviously changed the landscape of football at the moment, they've still given out 11.4 million in dividends to shareholders, and largely that's to the Glazers family. So if we're quibbling over 10 million, that's your 10 million. So they're giving money out to the Glazers, but they're not investing in the team. So this idea that there's no money there is rubbish. They just don't want to spend. And it's going to look awful for the Glazers if United shy away from the deal for Jadon Sancho. It's just going to look awful, because this is the way I see it, right, with Jadon Sancho, is that the importance of Jadon Sancho signing is massive. You've got to look at the fact that Jadon Sancho is a world-class player, right? You go and spend 120 million on him, he could be your right winger for 10 years. And we are trying to sign Pogba on a new contract. If we are trying to sign Pogba, I'm assuming we're giving assurances, right? If we're going to sign him, he's got under the impression that we're going to bring in new players or bring in top players. If we don't sign Pogba onto a new contract, it says to me that we're not serious about getting back to the top. It says to me that we're not looking to build a team that will eventually challenge for Premier League and Champions League. And most of all, regardless of who the manager is, and I tweeted this the other day, regardless of who the manager is, whether it was Jose, whether it was Van Gaal, Moyes, Solskjaer, every single manager has been let down by this board. Mourinho is not a bad manager. Mourinho is a world-class manager. Van Gaal, bit past it, isn't as bad as he showed at United. Moyes is shit. I'm just going to say it. But they're not bad managers, but every single manager has been let down because the Glazers care more about penny pinching. As we said on the Commons Finance podcast, while City have pumped in $1 billion into the club, the owners have taken out $1 billion. They don't care. And so what makes you think that they're going to do anything different this summer? What makes you think? For me, I honestly, Solskjaer knows he needs quality. 3 players, at least minimum 3. Jadon Sancho, we saw that last night. He needs a midfielder, whether Thiago is available for £30 million. World-class midfielder. There's Van der Beek, £40 million. Grealish is expensive. He's going to probably have to put in a transfer request, but maybe for 50, 60. A centre-back. We saw yesterday. We cannot carry on doing... That's minimum. And I'm not talking about defensive midfielder. Thomas Partey is available for 50 million. You've got a left-back we need. Tellez is available for 40 million. Like, this can't carry on, can it?
No, I think the Sancho one is obviously the main one that we're all talking about, and it seems to be the only, I think, concrete name really that we're interested in. I think everyone else is a bit sort of, are we interested? Are we not? Are we looking at this position? Are we looking at that position? You know, talks of a left-footed centre-back and things like that went away pretty quickly and haven't been mentioned. It's all about Sancho. So for me, there's no excuse for that deal not to be done. I don't see any problem, a financial problem. I can't see how we'd ever have a financial problem. I know this is a tough market. I know the coronavirus has impacted it. I know Dortmund want to keep hold of their best player, and, you know, fair play to them. They have every right to squeeze every penny out of us. But we should have that money to be able to go out there, to go over to Zorc or whoever at Dortmund and just put the money on the table and pay for him.
Yeah.
I understand it's a big deal. I understand it's hard to complete. I just don't see how Manchester United in their current state can't go out and get that player. He's a player who wants to come to United. We're lucky in that sense. I think we've only got so many years left. I know we'll always attract players United, but how many more years of a lack of success have we got to see until players start going, actually, I'd rather go Liverpool, you know, I'd rather look elsewhere, because I think that's on its way. I don't think we can cling on to our history.
Thiago, Henry. Thiago wants Liverpool. Let's be honest, if Klopp wasn't there, would Thiago ever go and move to Liverpool? Would he ever? No, he wouldn't.
No. I mean, he was on his way to us, wasn't he? 2013, he looked like he was all set for United, wanted to come here. We thought we'd had that deal done, and obviously didn't in the end for whatever reason. So, yeah, that's a prime example, great example. You know, Thiago, off to Liverpool. And this will keep happening if we keep showing this lack of ambition. As you say, you know, Pogba, has he got assurances that players are going to come in? Well, hopefully he has, but at the same time, maybe, you know, has he? Hopefully he hasn't, because, you know, if we don't bring in those players, he's not going to be a happy man, is he? If he's got those assurances and they don't come in. But yeah, no, it's from top to bottom. Everything's got to be sorted out this summer. We just need to go and get Sancho first and foremost. It's a shame how long the deal's dragged on already. You can say, oh, our season was still going. We only went out of the Europa League yesterday. I don't really care. You know, the men higher up can sort that out. You know, Ole doesn't have to be sitting there in the negotiations himself. He can still be on the training pitch with United, the current squad, while Woodward and Judge and whoever go and get that deal done. So, you know, the excuses of that don't hold up for me. That this deal should be done by now. It's not. I understand that, you know, this is United. We always have a big saga. It's always long negotiations. But why? You know, Liverpool got the deal of Fabinho done. You know, we only found out about an hour before it was announced that they were even in for him. It's things like that. They just flip deals over. Michael Edwards, I think he's called, isn't he? The Liverpool director,
yeah,
you know, has a good knack of it. And City have already got 2 signings done. Ake and Ferran Torres already through the door. I just don't see the excuse. I think Sancho should have been done already. The fact it isn't, it's disappointing. And if we don't get him in the next couple of weeks, and this is going to be a worrying summer, because we're going to struggle to turn our attentions to someone else other than Sancho to bring in, you know, whoever that may be, Ousmane Dembele or Koeman or whoever else, who's not going to be as good as Sancho first and foremost, will probably cost, you know, Dembele's going to be up towards the Sancho fee anyway, I think. He's going to be up towards 80, 90 million. I think Barcelona squeeze every last penny out of him. And then after that, you know, we're going to leave ourselves a very little amount of time to go and get, you know, Jack Grealish or a centre-back or whoever else. I just think we've drawn this Sancho deal out too long. We need to nip it in the bud and get it done in the next couple of weeks, or else we're going to be in a big amount of trouble.
Completely agree. And when you look at City, this is another, like I said, the Thiago thing. Again, you got to look at the pull of the manager as well. But also, they're doing well. Would Ferran Torres have even heard of Manchester City? He's 20 years old. He wouldn't have heard of Man City. Mm-hmm. You know, I read an article the other day on the Athletics. Great article if anyone subscribes to Athletic. And it was about Fabinho. It's called the Fabinho Experiment or Fabinho Project. Sorry, Robinho. And when Robinho joined Man City, he was under the impression he was joining United, because in Europe, and you listen to when Matic speaks about United, they say Manchester. And when they say Manchester around the world, they just think United, because City went nowhere. And the fact that Ferran Torres, who's very highly rated, 1 year left in his contract, I believe, 20 million, I think he signed for. there's been reports about Ferran Torres that he's just destined for Real Madrid and Barcelona, yet City signed him. So this idea that no one wants to move to Manchester, cold, cobbled streets, blah, 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 rubbish, because Manchester's great. But obviously it's no Barcelona, it's no Madrid, it's no, it's a European massive city like Milan or something like that. But the point is that the fact that City are still able to attract these sort of players, that Liverpool can attract Thiago to United, that doesn't show that. That shows that people want to win. And the fact is United aren't showing that ambition. And something as well that Manuel Veth said the other day about Sancho, and Manuel Veth was very reliable, but also I think his information was coming directly from Dortmund. So there's going to be an element. For me, it sounded like he was a bit of a Dortmund mouthpiece, but he was excellent. I mean, he just said it how it was. He doesn't think it's going to happen. I think United will get the deal over the line, but they'll do what they do usually. They'll low ball consistently. Oh, we won't pay this, won't pay this. Next thing you know, they'll go and pay the full fee. But then there's 2 months has gone, and Oli has no time then to integrate him into the squad and get him fit and firing and playing. And for me, this is how I see it. That when you look at City want five players. They want 5. We can't even go and get 1 or 2 players in the window. There's no excuse, COVID or no COVID. United are at a massive crossroads here that the board have to show ambition. And if they're not going to back Oli, then they're never going to show ambition, because Oli's a club legend. So the fallout after this is going to be much more than it was after Mourinho, especially the fact that he's done what he's had to do. But is he going to get hung out to dry? And that's the worry for me. Let's predict it. Okay. Do you think Sancho is going to happen? 1. Do you think we're going to make any other signings? I don't think we're going to sign a centre-back, and that's a must for me. Whether I just want Axel to get over his injury worries and make that position his own, because we've got a player there that can do it. But I think we'll sign Sancho. I'm going to say it, but it's going to drag on. Eventually, we'll pay the fee. And I think that I think we'll get Grealish just about. But that's it. And what I forgot to say as well about what Manuel Vett said, he said that the thing about United is that they're actually not Jadon Sancho's first choice. This summer, if we can't secure this and we're the only team in, then that is embarrassment beyond belief. That's egg on your face. Jadon Sancho's preference, apparently, is to go to Spain. That's what he said. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. It is what he said. He said that next summer, there's going to be all the clubs in for him. And do you think United are going to be the most attractive? Let's be honest, United can't offer at the moment Premier League trophies or Champions League. So we have to sign him now. It's a watershed moment for us.
Yeah, the question you asked whether we'll sign him or not is, it's like an age-old question, is it? To be or not to be, is Sancho going to come to Manchester United? I don't know. It's such a tough question to answer. As you said, there's so many games. There's always these media games being played, isn't there? The mind games, country to country, Germany versus England. It was always Italy versus England, wasn't it? With Paul Pogba, we had that battle of DiMarzio and those guys against our press and stuff like that, and all those arguments. And it's happening again with Sancho. We've seen it time and time again with big transfers. This is always just part and parcel of what happens. But yeah, I'm not so confident as I was a couple of weeks ago, if I'm honest. I feel like it's gone very, very quiet. I know some people can say that means good things. I'm not so sure, really. It's still the same as it was, I think, isn't it? But it's just, these Dortmund players coming out and saying they're happy that he's staying and things like that. I don't know what to make of all that, to be honest, as well. I spoke to Jan-Arge Fjortoft about that. I said, do you think, is that a direct game being played by Dortmund if they force their players to do this? And he said, his knowledge of Dortmund is that he doesn't think they would have done that. He thinks they've just been simply asked the question and they've been given assurances that he's going to stay. He doesn't think that's a game being played by Dortmund, which is interesting. You can have an opinion either way on whether, Chan and Witzel and whoever else made the statement, saying that they're happy, saying, I don't know that. It's tough, isn't it, that one? I don't know what you make of that. But yeah, whether we get him done or not, I don't know. I'm completely 50-50 on it. Whether we get anyone else, I think maybe one more player, as you say, maybe Jack Grealish or somebody else. I think probably one more player after Sancho. Whether or not that's a great window, I'm not sure, because you say we've got quite a few positions that we'd like to get. Centre-back's one of them. We all agree that we need another left-back as well, I think, to add that bit more depth. Williams, as we said, hasn't really been good enough, and Shaw's injuries have always been a problem despite his quality since the restart. So whether Sancho gets done or not, I'm 50-50. I really hope we get it done, obviously. As a replacement for him. If not, I like Dembele despite his injury problems. I'm a massive fan of Ousmane Dembele. I'd perhaps say him, but Sancho's such a level above. I think we've just got to go out and get him. And I think one more player after that. Whether that'll be Grealish or not, I'm not sure. We'll have to see. But yeah, that's my opinion on those things.
Yeah, I was about 2 weeks ago. So I've spoken to I've been on podcasts with a few journalists. So when you look at what Ronan Murphy was saying, and he works for Goal, and he actually does. He's a Bundesliga, although he's Irish, he's a Bundesliga journalist, and he did say 80% likely to happen. So this was about 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Then moving on to Jamie Jackson from the Guardian and the Observer, he said as well that he expected the deal to actually be done probably around about this time. He said it's going to happen. Just United have to cough up. And then moving on to obviously Manuel Vet, he and Chris Winterburn from the Marker, he said that he expects United to get it done. But all of the people, apart from Manuel Vet, have said that they expect United to get it done. But as time goes on, my view on the whole Dortmund thing and the players, I think it's too forced. I don't remember them doing this for Dembele. I don't remember them doing this for Aubameyang. Situations are different. Aubameyang was actually meant to leave in the summer. And people that are comparing the situations need to remember that it's not the same situation. Aubameyang was meant to leave in the summer, and what happened was the deadline passed. This deadline that was made. Yeah. What was it? 10th of August. This rubbish deadline.
Yeah.
But essentially, what happened was that Aubameyang didn't leave, and then he moved in January to Arsenal for more than what Dortmund wanted. Classic Arsenal. And then when you move on to Dembele went on strike. Dortmund, and this is something I want to say about Sancho, is that I respect him for not going on strike and not being, because then you look at him and think that's not the character I want in the squad. He's obviously very grateful for what Dortmund have done for him. And for those United fans who are questioning his character, this is something that I know someone that was questioning his character, and it made me so angry. They were saying, "Oh, he doesn't want to be a United player. He doesn't bleed for United." All this rubbish. There's the fact that you're born in Manchester or not, or you come to the academy is irrelevant. Bruno Fernandes has come in, and he is literally taken to United as if he was a local lad. Patrice Evra came in, didn't know anything about United, read up, and he's in love with the history and the amazingness of the club. Yeah. So anyone that thinks just from Manchester, and similar with fans, I'm not from Manchester. Clearly, you can hear my non-Mancunian accent. I'm from London, but anyone that thinks that you have to have this United DNA is rubbish, because at the end of the day, we need quality. Jadon Sancho is indebted to what Dortmund have done to him. This is the thing that people have to understand. He left England, made such a big risk in his career, going to a different country with different football, different culture, and they gave him the opportunity to be the player he is today. So if he doesn't go and publicly agitate for it, that doesn't mean that he doesn't want to come to United. It just means that he's respectful for what Dortmund have done for him. So for me, when I look at the way Dortmund are acting, I do think there's two sides to it. There's an element, as you say, of probably Dortmund just answering the questions because they are getting asked about it daily. But I also think it's just a bit too much. If there's no negotiations happening, if there's no deal on the table, if Sancho's happy, why are you talking so much to the media? Because United haven't said anything. Is it strange that United haven't said anything? Is that strange? Because I can't remember during the Pogba saga, the Maguire saga, the Wan-Bissaka saga, the Bruno saga. Apart from in the United one, I remember Bruno one. I remember United saying, obviously they're not interested, but do you remember United being this quiet in any of those sagas?
I don't know really. I think they're doing their talking, or as everyone claims, through the media, really, aren't they? Using, you know those briefs that everyone are so knowledgeable about now. We've seen them time and time again through the media. All the stories coming out from outlets at once. It is quite suspect. I think that's United doing their talking and making their statement through the media. I think we've been pretty quiet throughout. I don't know really. I think we're always a little bit coy on transfers. I think when you get a big club like United, you've got to be a bit like that. You can't be massively open about everything. You can't show your cards to everyone at the table. I think they've got to keep it quiet and negotiate quietly, but it's just the pace of the deal. That's my problem with it, to be honest. I don't mind them staying quiet about it, but as you say, I think we're a bit like that always anyway, to be honest. But we've just got to get the deal done. It's the pace thing. Just going back to what you said a minute ago about people's complaints about Sancho's attitude, I think we should love the lad, shouldn't we? He's binned off City, he's binned off Pep to go and play football, and then he wants to come to United. I don't see the problem with that. I think it's a quality attitude to have, to be honest. And as you say, he's not.
And he's a Chelsea fan.
He's not throwing his toys out the pram. He's getting on with life in Dortmund. He seems happy there, which that's good to see. That's fine. But as apparently he does want to come to United. So it's all fine. I don't see any problems with the attitude. I'm not sure where that's come from. I think that's absolute rubbish, to be honest with you. But that's all I have to say on that, I think.
Yeah, I've seen a few things. I know a few people that have questioned it, and I just said simply, okay, where's the evidence of that? But where's the evidence that he's got a bad attitude? Tell me what young player hasn't been fined for coming back late from from the international duty or anything. There's young players that always, there's no attitude problem there. At the end of the day, I think he probably will have to, don't go on strike, but he will have to in professional terms be like, look, I want to make the move to United. For me, this is what I'm thinking. What's going on? United are trying to obviously work out the add-ons, and quite frankly, they don't want to pay what has to be paid. I think it will get done. I'm going to put my neck out on the line. I've said this from the beginning, but I'm about a 65 to 70% in favour that it's going to happen. And then I think, I just think maybe this is wishful thinking, but it seems to me that the Glazers, especially Woodward, they really like Ollie. I don't think there was always that sort of same energy towards Jose. I don't think he all had. Well, we know he didn't have the backing of everyone in the boardroom. There was board members. I'm guessing maybe Sir Bobby was one of them, perhaps, because I remember him saying we don't want this kind at our club about Jose. I think he always set up to fail, but Ollie's clearly liked by everyone in the hierarchy. I just think that Woodward, whatever he's like, he knows he has to pull this one off. I mean, I don't know, Henry. What's your predictions for next season?
I'll tell you what I want. I don't know what to predict. It's always hard to predict. I wouldn't have predicted us to finish third this season, to be honest, but we've gone and done it. And, it's been such a patchy season. It's been a season of two halves, obviously with the break and everything like that. It's been such a tough season. It's so hard to look ahead to next season, predict that. What I want from United is to establish our place as sort of best of the rest. I'm happy where we are in third now behind Liverpool and City. We know they're way ahead of us. Those are two clubs that have shown ambition and have got, fantastic managers, a fantastic squad. We're still a way off them. That's what we're working for. I want to see that gap closed a bit though. I'm happy with best of the rest. I'm happy to stay third. I want that gap to be closed a little bit. I think it's just too big for me. We should be knocking on the door of City. They had a patchy season this year. I mean, we could have done a bit more, I think, to push them. That's something I want to see next season. And obviously, we want to see some silverware. And at least to progress into some cup finals. We want to. We can't just go on getting to these latter stages and then bottling that. There needs to be a bit of a mentality step up in that we need to start challenging for trophies. And I'd like to get at least one trophy under our belt, whether that be. The Champions League would be all right, wouldn't it? But the FA Cup or whatever. Yeah. Under our belt would be fantastic. Good, as I say, a good run in the Champions League is always good. Last year we enjoyed that, despite getting turned over at the Camp Nou. It was still a good ride. Massively enjoyed that PSG game. Fantastic. So that'd be fun as well. Yeah, that's all really. I think a title challenge next season is way too much of an ask. I think the season after maybe, but this was a big transitional season now. And we just need to keep moving forward, keep making those steps, and establish ourselves as contenders, at least for best of the rest, and then with a trophy as well, maybe.
Absolutely, well said. And my final things I will say is that Ollie deserves to be backed. He's held up his side of the bargain. Would you have liked silverware? Like you said, of course. We need to get silverware. It's been 3 years since he won something. That's been our worst run for 31 years, I believe. The last time that happened was in 1987, 88 season, I believe, which is not good enough. But we're back in the Champions League. Ollie has shown, like you said, that he can mix it in the Premier League. He is good enough to be a Premier League manager. There are obviously doubts whether his in-game management, tactically sometimes making those changes when they need to be done. Substitutions are something he needs to work on. But I do think with better players, he will do better. At the end of the day, we need to stop talking about Jose Mourinho. I know we're not the ones that do it, but there's so many out there that they're just waiting. Every time that there's a mistake, oh, well, Jose did this. And at the end of the day, mate, Jose left 2 years ago. Get over it. You like him so much, go and support Spurs. Just go. We don't need you in the fan base. So what I will say, I'm going to get hate on this after that, but all the Jose apologists, but, he's gone. We've got to focus on what's happening now. There are people that want Pochettino. I'm a big Pochettino fan. I've made that very clear. But at the end of the day, Ollie deserves another season. So that's another thing. Just back the manager, back the team. What I will say is that we've got some very exciting young players. Mason Greenwood is generational. Seriously, he's that good. There hasn't been a player that's come out of the academy for years. I can't even think of. He gives me Wayne Rooney vibes. So there are a lot of positives. Would you have loved to win yesterday? Yes. The manner of defeat was disappointing. There are problems in the side, but we need to adjust them in the window. I'm going to stick my neck out and say we're going to sign Jadon Sancho. We're going to sign Jack Grealish. We're not going to get a defender. So we're going to get two players. But Henry, always a pleasure, mate. And it's nice to actually finally see your face as well, because we've done a lot of podcasts, haven't we? But we've never seen what you look like. So, yeah. So, have you got anything excited for United District lined up? You want to tell the listeners, or is that hush hush? Any nice guests coming on soon?
Well, we got quite a few guests coming on. Some exciting ones. You know, I'm not the man that sorts out the guests over there. We got Liam who does that. You know, brilliant lad. You know, District can't praise those guys enough. You know, sorting guests out and everything. You know how it is. The operation of a podcast.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest thing, to be honest. All of it is quite hard to do. We get the lucky job of sitting in the hot seat and doing all the fun bits and pieces, while everyone else sits behind doing everything else. But you know, thank you. Yeah, that's right. Thank you for getting me on. Really appreciate it. I'm going to keep quiet on the guests, just because, you know, I just want to make sure that we're getting people on. I don't want to get people excited about certain things and throw names out there just in case. But yeah, some exciting things happening. And yeah, just hopefully everything keeps going well for you, man. You know, this is brilliant what you got going on here as well. Really enjoy coming on here and speaking to you. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, mate. And yeah, no, I can completely agree. At the moment, I'm the one that does all the getting the guests on as well. So, you know, as you see, I shave my head, all the stress, mate, of it, don't it? But no, honestly, it's always a pleasure, mate. I love talking football with you. You're always really balanced, and I feel like we're on a similar wavelength. But one thing I do want to say, last thing, United fans, don't despair. You know, we're going to win some, we're going to lose some, but United looking much more like United of old, I think, especially. And things are on the up. Just keep the faith, keep positive. I know it's difficult, and hopefully we'll see Jadon Sancho at the Theatre of Dreams wearing that fabled number 7 shirt. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.